Today, we are delving into the unknown to try to figure out what is next for 7 Days and what is next for the Fun Pimps. What can fans of 7 Days to Die expect next? So there's going to be more than a little bit of speculation in this video, just as a primer for you. We're going to be looking back as far back as 4 or 5 years ago to things that have been said in the past and kind of tracing those thoughts and those messages that the Fun Pimps have been giving us over time until the present day to figure out what they're working on and what the future of 7 Days looks like. So on July 25th of this year, 2024, 7 Days was released in its 1.0 state, much to the surprise of many people who expected 1.0 to still be pretty far off, and that this release here last July would have just been Alpha 22, followed by an Alpha 23, 24, and then eventually a 1.0 release. But if we look at the roadmap here for 7 Days, we can see that Stable was launched on July 25th, and we also had console release at that time. The next update, which is for quarter 4 of this year, is said to be the Storms Brewing update. Now, I've talked to the Fun Pimps pretty recently, this maybe like a month ago at TwitchCon, and from what I heard there, they are still on track for this release here. The next major update for 7 Days should be next summer. This is going to be the new threat update, quarter 2, 2025. That'll be bandits, a UI overhaul, event system, new quest type. So looking ahead at update number 3, this will be not this winter, but next winter, quarter 4, 2025. We're looking at a trader overhaul, story mode, Steam Workshop support, and yet another new quest type. What then comes next for 7 Days to Die? Well, that's where we have to start doing some digging. So I looked back at the developer live streams, well, all of them essentially, and I started to write down some pertinent information. I took some video clips that I'm going to show you right now. We're going to go through this chronologically because this tells a story over time, and we can kind of use some other resources to fill in the gaps here a little bit. Let's start first with the Alpha 19 developer live streams. This was 4 years ago.
We have 47 people. We have about 5 people, and I'm going to give you a teaser here. We have about six people working on an unannounced project. It's an Unreal game.
So I'm going to stop it right there. They have 47 people on the staff as of 2020, and we're going to kind of track this as we go along because it'll help us figure out how many people are working on 7 Days and how many people are working on some of these other projects that we're about to learn more about.
3 years, we may add additional content beyond Gold. I'd be disappointed if we were still working on it at 3 years because we have not only a new title in the works, but we have something that's in Unreal, but we have another title, idea that we really feel passionate about internal that is built on the same 7 Days engine.
So in this clip here, we're looking at Prime, who's a senior developer, and we're looking at Richard Hunick, which is one of the co-founders for the Fun Pimps. Basically, he's running the show with his brother. They founded the Fun Pimps, they came up with the idea for 7 Days, and they've built this game over the past 10 plus years. And this is the first time that we hear anything about what's gonna happen after 7 Days to Die goes gold. Now, granted, this was in 2020, so they were already talking about going gold back then and what the plan was post-launch. And Richard said there that 3 years would be probably like the longest that he would want to see people from the Fun Pimps still working on the game.
I'd be disappointed if we were still working on it at 3 years.
So if we go back to the roadmap, then we can see that this time frame here, it covers 18 months. And what Richard is saying here is that he would be disappointed to see the Fun Pimps still working on 7 Days 3 years past 1.0 or past gold. So that could mean two things. That could mean that we're going to get 18 months up until update number 3, and then we're going to get another 18 months after that where we might get like DLCs and new prefabs and maybe some new armors, new weapons. There might be like a small kind of skeleton crew keeping things together, working on the game a little bit, chipping away, giving some extra additional content. Or this could just be the flat cutoff right here, and instead of getting 3 years, we're getting 18 months, and this is it. My money would be on the latter, that the 18 months is going to be it, and we'll see no more 7 Days to Die support beyond update 3 unless it's like critical bug fixes or optimizations.
An Unreal game. It's not a 7 Days to Die 2. It's a brand new IP. Then we have another title idea based on 7 Days to Die Unity technology that is a different idea that Has got some internal traction. It's got some elements that are like 7 Days to Die, but it is considerably different than 7 Days to Die. We've been talking about 7 Days to Die 2 and what that would mean at some point. But we think that we need to get our feet wet with another game in Unreal first, Unannounced. But we wanted to get our feet wet on another IP with Unreal. So we have 4 or 5 people working on that out of our team.
So there were actually multiple bombshells that were dropped kind of in this live stream, just new information that we hadn't heard before. And fortunately as well, Richard was getting into his cups a little bit as the stream went on. So more and more information was divulged as time went by. So what they're talking about here is that, number one, there is an Unreal project that is not 7 Days to Die 2, and that somewhere between 4 and 6 Fun Pimp staff are currently working on this. They, quote, need some experience in Unreal Engine first before they start working on 7 Days to Die 2. Presumably they want 7 Days to Die 2 to be on Unreal Engine, whereas 7 Days to Die is currently on the Unity engine. However, they have another Unity project that is currently in the works. At this point, 4 years ago, it was just in early development. It was an idea with internal traction, they called it. And we'll find out more information about what that is and what that used to be called here in just a few minutes. So that is it for the information that we got out of the Alpha 19 developer live streams. I watched the Alpha 20 developer live streams and I did not find anything that relates to these new projects. The next source of information comes from my October 2022 developer live stream, where I interviewed Rick and Joel together and asked them questions about 7 Days, about the company, and about the future of 7 Days. So let's listen in to a little bit of that. Once you reach gold, do you see some of those resources being transferred onto new projects? And do you have any new projects that you'd like to talk about today?
Team size now, we're getting close to 60. We have about 10 that are working on an unannounced game in Unreal. We have an unannounced game that is very friendly for the 7 Days tech, that is a new IP that we haven't announced, which a majority of the team would go to after we're done, and some will go to the Unreal project. And we have a third party working on an unannounced game for publishing. But we think our fans will like these games because it's something that may not be exactly like 7 Days, but it has some elements like 7 Days in it. We're big into open world, we're big into multiplayer, we're big into RPGs. There'll be some common things about those other titles.
So let's kind of plug this in here. So first of all, at this point, they have 60 Fun Pimps working on staff, so we can extrapolate that roughly 50 of them were working on 7 Days to Die. They update us on the Unity project that they had discussed in 2020, and they say that a third party is working on it. We get an update on the Unreal project saying that now 10 Fun Pimps are working on this, and that when 7 Days to Die is finished, quote, some will go to the Unreal project. And then we do actually get some new information here, something that had not been mentioned previously that I could find, that there is a new IP on 7 Days Tech, and that the majority of the team will go to this project when 7 Days to Die is finished.
We've been talking about gold and what post-gold looks like, and probably keeping a small live team on for quite some time that's making free location content, some DLCs that we were thinking about. So we will keep a live team on for quite some time. Might be 5 people is all.
And they talk about post-launch support there for a second, that there might be a small crew of people, like a custodian crew, that kind of take care of 7 Days for a few years post-launch. Whether that's a year and a half or 3 years is still up in the air. Next, we travel to June 2023 for the Alpha 21 developer live streams, where there is again some mention of some of these projects. Let's listen in.
So there is a top secret thing going on. We've had about, 9 developers of our 60 that are working on a secret Unreal project. Those guys are they're Fun Pimps, but they're over here doing some cool stuff over here. We're excited about that. When we're able to pre-order the game, that's when we'll announce, but we can't until then.
So at this stage, we get an update that there are still roughly 60 Fun Pimps on staff, and that roughly 9 in this case, they said 10 before, but 9 to 10 people are working on this yet to be announced Unreal project that will, quote, be announced at when it's ready for pre-order. So that was in June 2023. Now, if we fast forward to October 2023 at TwitchCon, I spoke with some of the devs when I was there, and also TwitchCon is where they announced 7 Days Blood Moons. So we can plug in Blood Moons here for the Unity project that a third party was working on that in 2020 was an idea with internal traction and then now has been announced as Blood Moons. So now we have to fast forward to present day to fill in the remainder of the information on the timeline and also fill in some of the gaps that were left behind before. So when I was at TwitchCon last year in 2023, I spoke with some of the developers that were there. So there were two teams. The Fun Pimps were there and Studio Illogica was there. Now, Studio Illogica is this third party that's been working on Blood Moons, and from what I gathered both last year at TwitchCon and this year at TwitchCon, and from what I've gathered from other sources, basically what's happened here is that the Fun Pimps went to Studio Illogica and gave them this idea to work on and gave them direction, and originally gave them a few Fun Pimps, I think it was like 6 as of 2023, to basically help them port some of the assets over to the new game, to give them creative direction, to oversee this project and kind of get everyone on the same page. Now, as of 2024's TwitchCon, when I was speaking to Prime, that is down to one person. So originally there was just a small team that worked with Studio Illogica to develop Blood Moons. Now it's just one person in sort of an oversight role, making sure that they get everything right. And Studio Illogica continues to work on 7 Days to Die Blood Moons, or not 7 Days to Die, but 7 Days Blood Moons. So basically what I'm trying to say here is the fact that Blood Moons is being worked on is not taking away significantly from the development of 7 Days to Die. It would appear, though, that Blood Moons has been delayed. When I spoke to them at TwitchCon last year, my impression was that the game was pretty much done and dusted, ready to be released. They were just waiting on 7 Days to be released in its 1.0 state, and they were going to release Blood Moons kind of in tandem with console and with 1.0. And that never happened, and it doesn't appear to be on the near horizon either. And in my opinion, I think that's because 7 Days Blood Moons was met with this sort of lukewarm response from the community because it just felt like 7 Days to Die with a quirky game mode. There wasn't anything to differentiate it, to set it apart, to warrant a $20 or $30 purchase price if it's basically just 7 Days to Die with limitations and kind of a special game mode. So what they've done is they've decided to make 7 Days Blood Moons a little bit more unique. It has a unique art style that's separate from 7 Days to Die. It has unique weapons, unique zombie types, and it has this new unique game mode, but it's still very familiar. It's in the 7 Days universe, and it should be very accessible to someone who has played 7 Days to Die. Personally, I think it was a great move. I'm looking forward to trying out 7 Days Blood Moons, but is it going to be the next 7 Days to Die? No, just simply because I don't think that the replayability is going to be there, but it should be a more of a pick up and play kind of game than 7 Days is. 7 Days requires a lot of time and energy to put into a long playthrough, but 7 Days Blood Moons, you could just pick up and play it for an afternoon with your friends and put it away until you want to pick it back up again, basically. We also get a couple of recent quotes from the forums, and the first one here says that there is, quote, another game that will probably be in Unreal Engine 6 that is years away. And there's another quote that says that there is, quote, a next Unity game. So if we look at all of this on the timeline, we can see that basically there's just another reference to this Unreal Engine project that's been worked on since prior to 2020, most likely by anywhere from 4 to 10 Fun Pimps, and that it is still years away. And we also see, again, new mention of this next Unity game that is a new IP on 7 Days tech that the majority of the team will go to once 7 Days is complete. And so that is, these are the facts. These are things that we know, things that have been said, things that have been recorded and quoted that are real, basically. But now we get into the speculation. So I was wondering, what are these other projects that the Fun Pimps are working on? Are they zombie games? Are they MMOs? Are they survival games? Like, what are they called? What are they going to be about? And to track down some information on this, the first place I searched on a hunch was Trademarks, registered in the United States. And it turns out that the Fun Pimps do have some additional trademarks that are registered to them, in addition to, say, the Fun Pimps and 7 Days to Die. So let's have a look at those. The first one I want to point out is the one called 7 Days Zombie. This was registered as early as November of 2018 and is now said to be dead and abandoned. So I had to do some research on what a zombie is and how it differs from a zombie that we all know and love from 7 Days. And I found this article here, which describes a zombie as being sort of stemming from Haitian voodoo, and also, this is the important part right here, the zombie were not undead corpses, but comatose living bodies that were absent of will. So I started looking for some pop culture references, maybe something that could give me some more direction on how this name was inspired and why the Fun Pimps would want to name their game 7 Days Zombie. And here's what I found. White Zombie, which is said to be the first full feature-length zombie film ever made in 1932. This story is about, it says here, a young man turns to a witch doctor to lure the woman he loves away from her fiance, but instead turns her into a zombie slave. Now, I read some more about this on Wikipedia, and sure enough, down here, this is set in Haiti in 1932, and that there is an evil voodoo master who has a sugarcane mill that is entirely operated by zombies. So the theme that we're getting here is like living but soulless, mind-controlled zombies. They're not zombies that are just like hungry for flesh. They're just kind of like lobotomized people that are easily controlled by others. And this is the exact theme that we see in 7 Days Blood Moons, where there is a hive master that is controlling the zombies around him. It's the whole premise of the game. And it doesn't surprise me that they would go to a name like this originally to portray this idea that they had. However, eventually this trademark was left behind and abandoned, and instead we see up here 7 Days Blood Moons kind of takes its place on the listing here. So eventually I think they realized that 7 Days Zombie was, people really wouldn't know what that meant. What is a zombie? They'd have to look it up just like I did. And so to make things a little bit more clear, especially to the existing 7 Days audience, they just went with 7 Days Blood Moons instead. So that solves one mystery, but what about the other two? Next up we have Unhallowed. So what does unhallowed mean? Well, it means not blessed, unconsecrated, unholy, unsanctioned by or showing lack of reverence to religion, impious, profane, contrary to accepted standards, immoral. So when I hear unhallowed, I'm thinking in my head, like these are the first things that come up: necromancy, dark rituals, demonic possession. I think of things like H.P. Lovecraft, like Diablo, like Constantine, and to be quite honest with you, I think of things like Darkness Falls, which is the most popular overhaul mod for 7 Days to Die right now, which features many demonic monsters and demons and sort of has this sort of unhallowed feel to it. We know that the Fun Pimps are going to work on games that appeal to a certain audience of people that like 7 Days to Die, right?
We're big into open world, we're big into multiplayer, we're big into RPGs. There'll be some common things about those other titles.
So these games are going to have to have elements of open world, survival, RPG, horror, that kind of things. And so when I'm thinking to myself, what's a game out there that is open world, survival, RPG-ish, that kind of has this unhallowed, dark ritual, necromancy kind of feel to it, this kind of religious undertone? And the first thing that comes to my mind is both The Forest and Sons of the Forest, both of which were very successful games that the Fun Pimps might have drawn some inspiration from. And if the Fun Pimps do make a game that kind of has this unhallowed feel, that has this survival game feel, I would expect it to look similar to The Forest. What's more is that The Forest and Sons of the Forest are both built on Unreal Engine. Now, I don't know this for sure, but if I had to plug things in here and make a guess, I would say that this Unhallowed named game is the Unreal project, the one that is not 7 Days to Die 2, the one that they need experience with before they make 7 Days to Die 2, the one where some people will go to once 7 Days to Die is concluded, the one that will be announced at pre-order, and the one that will probably be on Unreal Engine 6 that is years away. Those are the snippets of quotes and stuff that we've gone over so far. Again, purely speculation here. I have no idea what game is which, but this is just my best guess. And last, we have the Seventh Curse, another trademark that's registered to the Fun Pimps. So the Seventh Curse, well, where have we heard the Seventh Curse before? Well, as it turns out, we've seen that in 7 Days to Die. If we look at the Bar Brawling book set, the completion bonus after you've read all 7 volumes, it is the Seventh Curse. The 7th unarmed strike landed in a short time will do 300% damage. I personally don't think that the 7th Curse Bar Brawling book has anything to do with this new project, but I could be wrong. Well, a simple Google search turns up this, the 7th Curse. 1986, an adventurer who's been inflicted with a deadly curse during a previous expedition in Thailand goes back to battle an evil sorcerer and his tribal army and deadly creatures. So on Wikipedia it says that the character has been damned with 7 blood curses which burst through his leg periodically. He will die when the 7th bursts. He and his allies battle the evil sorcerer of the Worm Tribe, a hideous, bloodthirsty, baby-like creature. Sounds like it could be the setting of a video game. The reason I think that the 7th Curse video game will be entirely unrelated to the 7th Curse kind of simply has to do with like licensing and trademark issues. I think that the 7th Curse video game from the Fun Pimps, although it might have some like monster fighting, like curse, sorcery type of themes, I think it's going to be more tied in with 7 Days to Die. Like that's where the 7 is coming from, not 7 curses that burst out of a character's leg. Who knows? Who knows? Could be a film adaptation. Maybe Rick or Joel, they're a huge fan of Thai monster movies, and they've watched this back in the day, and they've just got to make a video game out of it now. So if we plug this in, I think that the 7th Curse is the new IP that was on 7 Days Tech that was announced in the 2022 developer interview that I had with the devs, and that this is the one that the majority of the team will go to at the conclusion of development of 7 Days to Die. It is also the, quote, next Unity game that was referenced on the forums this year. I don't think that this one is 7 Days to Die 2, because 7 Days to Die 2 is supposedly going to be on Unreal Engine. That's why they had to make Unhallowed. They wanted to get some experience in Unreal Engine before they dive into 7 Days to Die 2. I know, this video is very heavy on speculation, not a lot of concrete information here. I'm just working with what I got here. I thought it would be a fun exercise to look at what's going on with the Fun Pimps, what else are they working on, what's going to be the future of 7 Days, because 7 Days is 1.0 now. It's it's almost done. The time is kind of limited on it. What are we going to be playing next? Are we going to move on to other games, or are the Fun Pimps going to cook up something that basically is a 1-for-1 for 7 Days to Die, that everyone just like moves from 7 Days to Die and starts playing the new game? I don't know, probably some kind of a mixture there. So they're cooking up a couple of things. We've got the 7th Curse, we've got Unhallowed, and then they're working with Studio Illogica to get Blood Moons out. And then eventually, I think they will start working on 7 Days to Die 2, or something to that effect anyway. I don't know if they'll call it 7 Days to Die 2, but anyway, let me know what you guys think of all this speculation here. Do you have any theories, or do you have any quotes or information that you've stumbled across out there? Let us know in the comments, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.